Right, hello, welcome to Castaway Pva's live feed again with me and Lee talking, chewing the fat on everything abroad and foreign carping. So if you've got any questions, just ping them in and we'll see if we can answer them the best we can, to be honest. So we've got one straight away popped up. I'll ping this one to Lee to start off with. I've noticed a lot of French videos, fish come to floaters now and ducks on the lakes. But 25 years ago, it was almost impossible to get them to take floaters and rare to see ducks. Is that because the French have stopped eating carp, or is it new stock that have been fed on pellets? What do you think, mate?
Right. Yeah. Marcus. Right. Me personally, I think it's one of them that if they don't see it and they don't know what it is, they're not going to take it. So in England, we fished for them off the surface for years. And so they know what them bits and pieces are. Whereas in England, up until the last few years, nobody ever took chum mixers or bread. Nobody had a go. Nobody fired loads of bait out on the surface. Everybody piled out boilies, particle. So they were used to seeing all the bait on the bottom. They never saw anything on the top. But I mean, when I think about, 30 years ago when I first started going, you still saw them. They would cruise around the top, and occasionally you would see them grubbing sort of thing at leaves and little bits like that and stuff. So I don't think it's so much. I don't think so much feeding pellets or anything like that. I just think we've educated them to find food and take food off the top and everything. Yeah. So I think that definitely. I mean, I've still not had one. I've tried with chum mixers and I've tried with stuff like that sort of thing. And I personally haven't had one on that sort of floater, but I've had them on a zig rig. There's a lake that I go to on the Goncourt complex, and you get them to swirl at the floaters, but they don't seem to take them. But the ideal trick there is you put a zig out and you fish the zig literally an inch or 2 inch underneath the surface. Yeah. Fire the mixer over the top, and bang, they'll take the zig every time. But you let that zig out another 2 inches, so it's actually on the surface. They swirl at it, but very rarely will you get a take, but they'll take it there. But definitely bread. I've had a lot on bread, and I've had a lot on like maggots. I'll fish a size 8 or a size 10 with a couple of buoyant maggots and 3 or 4 live maggots. So they're just on the surface. The 2 buoyant ones are just enough to hold it on that surface so it doesn't break the surface film, but you've got the small ones moving. And I think they're just used to taking sort of bugs and everything off the surface and that. But I think me personally, I just think it's us sort of educating them to what floaters are.
Also, as well, I found a lot of French lakes and stuff have stopped stocking catfish into their lakes. Because you'll never see a duck on the lake with catfish in it. Geese, swans. I've been on lakes where they've taken baby wild boar from the margins.
Yes.
And they just sit in the margins and stuff. So I think a lot of lakes now, where it used to be part and parcel, you chuck a koi in there, you chuck grassies in there, you chuck sturgeon, catfish, but then, you never seen wildfowl on the lakes and stuff. And I'm sure like lakes are steering away from it because carp anglers especially don't want to catch them. And the lakes that haven't got catfish in, of course, the carp sit up on the surface. They're not going to get attacked because anything on the surface, catfish like. And I think that's starting to kind of maybe steer them a bit more towards maybe having a floater, maybe.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the thing about the birds and ducks and things like that is they do get shot a lot more out in France. So I think birds become nervous of people at the side of the lake. They land on these lakes where there isn't no anglers. All of a sudden, a French guy appears, and the next thing, sort of thing, he's blowing them out the sky and off the lake. So I think they do come, and they probably don't know the difference between anglers and hunters, sort of thing. So there's a lot of lakes in France. You don't get the problems that we get in England with sort of thing, not as bad a problem, sort of thing. And I think that is down to they're just so wary of people with the hunting going on. So I think so. Right, let's have a look at this second one. Evening, guys. Any recommendations for best way for a family to France cost-wise? Right. What do you recommend if somebody wants to take their family away? So I think, what's the best way to venture over there? I'm assuming he's Mark's probably meaning you've got the you've got the two ways of doing it. You can find the lakes that's got the houses and swimming pools and all them sort of things next to it, or if you like the camping, go down the camping route and just fish the public lakes. What do you reckon, Chris?
Well, a prime venue is what we did not last year, the year before, was the River Lot, and the plan was we were going to do 2 weeks there with the whole family. So me, my missus, my son, both sets of grandparents. But the way we did it was we drove down. Me and my girlfriend drove down to the River Lot with all the gear. We chucked all the kids' toys in. We even got the grandparents' luggage all in my van. We drove down the day before, and then they flew down. They brought my son. They all flew down. He got picked up from the airport. River Lot, you can provide all the gear as well if needed. You could sleep 10 people in the house, and it's got a pool table. It's got, it's 2 minutes walk away from playgrounds and shops, just down a track. It's got a massive heated swimming pool, and literally I was sat in the swimming pool with a sounder box next to my head and the river 15 foot away.
Yeah.
So you could literally fish while you're in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. But like I say, that was definitely the best family kind of trip I've ever done, to be honest. And it was easy. The flights, I think they were about 85 quid, I think the flights were. And then you didn't have to do the palaver of all your family not wanting to do the massive drive. And you had all, because I drove down, we had all the stuff. So we took food and everything and stuff like that and everything. It was good. Yeah, but that's what I'd recommend. What about yourself, mate?
I've done both. I mean, my wife comes with me, sort of thing, most of the times when I go to France. So we've not got kids, so that little bit's out of the equation. But we've done the 2-man bivvy and fishing at the lakes and that sort of thing. And now she likes, sort of thing, a little bit more sort of like luxury, if you like. So we've done at the top end of the scale, if you like, you've got Pascal's Lake that I fish quite a lot. I should actually be there tonight on Pascal's Lake if it wasn't for this lot. But you've got that one, but it's not cheap. You've got a little lake, 5, 6, 7 acres with fish over 80 pound in, but you have got the most top quality house that's as good as my house right next to the lake. But obviously, you can have up to 5 anglers on that.
Yeah.
But you're splitting it between a family. Yeah, lovely. But again, it's like 2,500 quid sort of thing, because you're looking at splitting it between 5 anglers. So if you was going on your own, it's going to be expensive. So you've got quite a lot of places like that, or you've got the ones that's got the big static caravans and stuff. But I mean, if you want it cheaper wise, I would think in probably the most cost effective and nice for the kids and everything is just put something in for campsites. 99% of the big campsites in France have a lake on them, and a lot of them you get that lake in with your camping. We used to go down to the sanctuary right down in the south of France, and we stopped the night before at a campsite, travelled down on the Friday, so you're not doing it all and setting up and everything on the Saturday. Yeah. And the campsite there, it was like, I think it was something like €8-9 a night for your pitch. So you've got 8-9, so you're looking at like £6-7 for a night to pinch your tent. And the lake there got sturgeon, got carp, got catfish, sort of thing. I think they go up to like 40s, and you got that free with your camping.
Yeah, sort of thing. It was well, didn't it?
Yeah, so I think a lot of them sort of thing, if it was me, and you've got that bit of adventure that you're doing the camping, you know, you got the kids, you got the family, you're doing the camping side of it. You can travel here, travel there, do whatever you want, come back at night and just fish away, and you're fishing for fish that haven't got names. They're probably not fished for that much, sort of thing. So you've got the best of both worlds. So, you know, nice. Price-wise, I would say doing the camping side and looking at that would be a lot cheaper than actually booking a lake with a house and everything. But then again, like you say, depends on how many of you going. You know, you get a couple of families and there's only you two going, sort of thing. Away you go. I missed the last question, but this one's just popped up. How do you find these cheap campsites with lakes on them? Google. Just put camping in France, or camping in France with lakes, sort of thing. Google. If nothing comes up, start to small enough what you're asking for, and then go from there, like, sort of thing. So just put campsites with lakes.
Yeah, and same going on to angling lines. If you go on to angling lines, they've actually got a family holiday section.
Yes.
You know, and they've got tons on there, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same with, I mean, Google is so good now, sort of thing. You just put in there, or carp fishing with houses, carp fishing with camping and stuff like that, and everything will come up, sort of thing. Just trawl through, spend a day, look through there, and things will come up, sort of thing. So that's what I would suggest. Cheaper camping, sort of thing, more comfort, quality. Go for the ones with the houses.
Right. Next question from Wayne Taylor. Is it better to stick to a well-known bait like mainline cell, what I guess gets used regular there, or is it better to take bait that you're confident in the UK? What do you reckon, Lee?
I know what I would. Definitely 100%. I would go take what you're confident in. Yeah. Because even if you do everything right, like you go to a lake, cells going in, you take cell and have a bad trip, straight away you will blame the bait. Even if it was the fish didn't turn up, they weren't in your swim, whatever. And this is what I've said: England, France, everything. You know, in France, I only ever change things that would be detrimental to my fishing. So I might up my lead size, up my hook size, up my bait size, but I will still use the pattern of hook, the make of hook link material, the make of mainline, the make of the bait that I'm using, just stronger, sort of thing. 100%. You know, on the other way, you could, if you're with a company, and like, if you like, I'm with Mad Baits, I use my fish meal bait from them and I take it everywhere, sort of thing. But if somebody said to me, all they are seeing is sell all the time, I will take my bait that I'm confident in, sort of thing, my fish meal, but as a backup, I will take my company's nearest bait. So I would take the nuts because it's the nearest to sell, sort of thing. But definitely don't go out of your comfort zone. What do you reckon, Christian?
Yeah, well, definitely. You know, you see these lakes, you know, you turn up, say, Teliats, for instance, you turn up on a coach, there's 15 of you in this coach. Every single person's got a different flavour of boilie. And then End of that week, another 15 people turn up, and then they've got 15 other different types of boilies. Carp see such a wide range. Like I say, you just want to get the percentages, so you want to be confident in your bait. You know, and if you're catching on one bait, use it. You know, I use mainline cell, so I can't really say anything on that. You know, comment and stuff. But you know, I've used all sorts, every kind of bait under the sun and stuff, and I've done one on all of them because as long as I've been confident and caught on it, I've taken it to France and caught on it. You know, I've not never ever gone to a lake and they've said you have to. This is what you'll catch fish on. Oh, I'll buy 50 kilos of that. I've never done that. I've always gone, I'm going to take what I've got, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and then if your trip's going to pot and all the rest of it, and somebody's having a beano on the going bait, well, then you start stealing their bait, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I have done in the past, if you like, away, not so much away from the bait I'm confident in, if most lakes out there, they'll feed their lakes with particle or pellets.
Yeah, there's always house pellet in there that you can get.
Exactly. But if I'm going to a lake and they specifically tell me that they actually feed that lake on a boilie as well, sort of thing. So I know, you know, if they say, oh yeah, when the anglers aren't here, we put mainline cell in, or we put our house fish meal or something in. If I know they're actually feeding them on their house boilie, I might buy 5 kilo of it and just mix a few, sort of thing. So I might have 5 kilo of my bait and just mix a kilo or half a kilo of their boilie in, just so it's on the spot. So when they're coming in, there is something that they might recognise. But I only ever do that if I know they're feeding them fish week in, week out on a house boilie. That's the only time that I would do that. Otherwise, just do what you're confident in. If you're confident, you'll fish a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. Mark Allsop, lines on it the other day for some reason, having a look at something. Loads of family venues on there, to be honest, saying, you know, sole use for 5 people, 2 people fishing, and all sorts of kind of. And there were some good deals, to be honest. But yeah, definitely. Yeah,
like I say, go on Google, just put in family carp fishing holidays, and enough people will have looked at it now. Right, let's have a look. When you look at a lake in France, do you look for the amount of stock or the size of fish that's in the lake? Right, when picking a lake then in France, Christian, what do you go for?
Well, now, it used to be, you know, you just catch in and all the rest of it, but I've been going to France and, well, going all over the world, you know, for a long time now. And I must admit, nowadays it's bad, but, you know, I do look for that bigger fish. You know, I'm not really worried about whether it's massively high stocked or anything like this, but, you know, it's usually a nice looking lake, but with something that could beat my PB. You know, I'm at that stage now where, you know, even if there's just one in there that can beat my PB, I know it's in the lake, you know, and it's something that you never know, it could happen or couldn't, you know, but that's me personally now. So I'm always hunting that monster one. But what about yourself, mate?
I'm a bit of both, I think. I think because I'm, if you like, I'm lucky enough, I get to go 4, 5, 6 times a year, sort of thing. I can choose a few different. 99% of them is yes. I look for stock, sort of thing, big fish stocks. You know, you try and find. We're all trying to find that lake that's got a massive stock of big fish, sort of thing. Right. But they come up, sort of thing. Or like I say, there's one that I go to in France, sort of thing. Now it's 27 acres. You've got. It's not got a PB in it for me. It's got a PB common in it for me, but not a PB, if you like. But you're looking at 27 acres. You've got about 800 fish. You've probably got in the region of 12 to 15 60s. But then you've got probably getting on 75 50s in there. And well over 150, if not 240s. sort of thing. So you've not got, you've not got that mega big fish in there, but you've got the stock of fish that you hit it right, you could have a phenomenal week, sort of thing. Like I say, I fished it and had I've had 750s and 1740s in a week, which is, you know, just phenomenal. No, that's right. But yeah, I look at it, and again, I do trips over to France. I go with friends and everything. So some of my trips are what they want, sort of thing. Like, it might not be for me. For me, I just like to go catch fish. If I go to a place and I catch 50 20s in a week, 20 is still a big fish. I know it's not in relative terms, but it's still a bit. And if I'm there with friends that's never been to France before, and I see 5 of my friends all smash their PBs in a week, sort of thing, I've had just a good, because I know I've got my personal fishing coming up. So like I say, I'm probably the same with you. For my personal fishing, yes, I am looking for that big fish. There's got to be something in there that's going to be a PB and everything. But I'm lucky as well that I do look for stock and everything. And that comes across, I do get asked a lot, I'm going to France for the first time, sort of thing. If you're going to France for the first time, sort of thing, yes, people go over there, they go to the rock hard lakes, and somebody is going to, first time in France, sort of thing, probably first foreign fish, and they've had a 60 or a 70. It does happen, but not that often, sort of thing. So you could, if you like, you could ruin your introduction to French or fishing abroad by picking the wrong lake first, sort of thing.
I've seen it happen so many times on French trips. Ones I've been on, to be honest. Like, you know, you've got 13 people on the lake and 7 people blank. You know, but other people might have 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, and those people, it's their first trip. They get kind of pushed into it a little bit. Come on, you want to come and catch big fish? They blank. You never see them again because it breaks them. Whereas you're better off, you know, when I first went to France, I think there was 140 in the lake, and I was all excited. You know, that was massive. You know, and there was a couple of 30s, and most of them were doubles. But you know, now you can go onto any website and stuff and see 70s, 80s, 90s, 100-pounders. You know, so I need to start off gradually, and then, like I say, go and just work up. But yeah, you are a lot of money to spend out to sit there and blank. Otherwise,
oh yeah, definitely, sort of thing. So definitely decide what you want from your trip first before you go. I would say, sort of thing. And if you are looking at, I'm going to France, I want to catch a big fish. So A, pick the right water. You're not going to catch 70s if they ain't in the water. And B, if you're going to go down the big fish, that type of route, you've got to sort of like get your mindset that I could blank. I mean, every time I go to France, I look at it. If I catch whatever lake I go to, whether it's an easy lake, a hard lake, whatever, if I catch a fish, I've done all right. I've caught.
Yeah, job done, innit?
I catch 3 fish, sort of thing. I've done well. If I can catch a fish a day, sort of thing, that's my trip. Anything over that is a bonus. If you can catch a fish every day, then brilliant.
Yeah.
Right.
What's this one? When can I put an order online in Castaway Pva? Not too sure what Dave's doing at the moment, but I'm sure if you just give Dave at Castaway Pva a private message, I'm sure he'll sort you out and see what he's doing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether he's still popping in. I think from what I've heard, most bait, tackle, that sort of companies, they are still popping in once a week or something and posting stuff out. But like Christian says, just send him a private message and he'll.
There we go. Just popped up. Anytime you want off our website. There we go. Just place an order now and Dave will sort it out.
Yeah. Right. Now, here's a good one. I suppose this could be home or abroad. How clever are these carp? He hears people say how smart sort of thing and how clever they are and stuff, but are they really that clever? What do you think?
Well, people say that going abroad and stuff's easy. I wish it was. I really wish it was. It made my life a lot easier, I tell you. But, you know, you're turning up to a lake that from beginning of March through to October, they're seeing every single swim, you know, absolutely hammered. People are turning up. They're not turning up with a kilo bag or a couple of kilos just to do a little short session. They're turning up with lots of bait. And you don't know how much bait every Saturday when you turn up has gone in your swim. It could be 100 kilos, could be 500 kilos. And these fish have seen every rig in the world, you know, compared to foreign, you know, anglers and stuff like that. We're still quite basic on our stuff, but you look at some of these foreign anglers and what they do and their tactics and stuff is crazy, you know. So I think, like I say, I do think, you know, some lakes I've been to, you go in there and you catch a fish and they say, oh, we've not seen that one for 6-7 years.
Yeah.
You know, and it's vice versa. You know, the syndicate I'm fishing at the moment, you know, there's fish in there that go missing for 10 years. You know, it last got put in at £5 and then comes out at like mid-30s 10 years later and nobody's ever caught it.
Yeah.
So I do think they're crafty buggers, but it keeps us interested. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I would say it's, I suppose it's what would you call it? I don't think they're clever as in they know what a hook is, they know what this is. I don't think they're that clever, if you know what I mean. I think they learn. I definitely think they learn, but I think it's different to what we would call they know when something does something different, if you like. And that's why I was watching the fish on Pascal's Lake. This was a prime example. I was watching the fish on Pascal's Lake, and there was a couple of big fish. And I was up a tree, and my mate was getting done. And he said, no, it can't be. I said, I'm up there, and it was a big fish, was coming down. It would pick up 1 or 2 boilies, and it would come down, and it would pick it up with its lips and everything. Once it had started, because we was just fishing boilies, once it had took half a dozen, 10, 12 baits, I noticed I could see the fish would come in and these baits would start flying up off the bottom, and they were sucking them baits in from 1 inch away, 2 inches away. Eventually, it knew that it was food and it was good for them. So it was sucking them up. And I see his rig move 2 or 3 times, and the boilie would go up and drop, up and drop. And I said, you need a longer rig on, because once and it's almost like it remembered that bait has gone up and it's not done what the other baits have done. So it's gone up, dropped down. It would just move sideways. And in the end, it took all the other baits, but it never sucked that particular bait another time. So it was like it had remembered that bait. I've tried to take it. It's done something different, sort of thing. So I'll leave it alone, sort of thing. And the fish moved off. He reeled in, and he put another bait on, just fishing bottom baits. And I said to him, right, just put a tiny slither of a pop-up on the top of it. I said, you just want enough buoyancy, not to make the boilie buoyant, because you didn't want it flying about like a balance bait when the fish was coming in, but you wanted it to act the same as a bottom bait. So he just put a slither on that counteracted the weight of his size 4 hook. And he went from like a 9-inch hook link to an 18-inch hook link, sort of thing. Yeah. Put it back out there. I went back up the tree. 3/4 an hour later, the fish come in, took 3 or 4 baits, sucked his hook bait in, and I watched his hook bait not be picked up, but his hook bait went straight up, straight in the mouth, and he nailed a personal best common, 52.5. So I definitely think it's Not that they're, I mean, I suppose you could say they're clever. I just think they remember that's done something different. So it's dangerous. It's not done what all the rest have done. And on that point of view, don't you think, Christian? I think we go to places and we clue these fish up a lot quicker than what we had to. Like, I go to public lakes that probably don't get fished very often and I just use a standard 12, 18-inch hook link, bottom bait, knotless knot, straight braid. Whereas other people will go in, and I think if you take fish that's never been, you find a lake in England and it's a new lake, nobody's ever fished from. Why go in with choddies, stiff hinge rigs, this rig, that rig, all the other? You know, we are learning these carp, 20 years of carp fishing in one season, if you like. And I do think in certain times we make it harder for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
So yeah, I just think it's not so much they're clever, they're a wild animal. And any wild animal, they're looking for danger. So I think if something acts like, you know, like I say, it picks up 10 boilies and then one does something totally different sort of thing, then yeah, I think it's something you need to look at like that. So if I'm fishing all bits, pellet, particle, everything like that, I'll fish a wafter or a little pop-up so it acts like a fish comes in, you're fishing particle and bits, a fish comes in, it all wafts up. So you want your hook bait to do what everything else is doing. So you're fishing, if you've got 5 kilo of 20 mil boilies out there, why fish a 14 mil pop-up over the top of them or anything like that? Fish what you're fishing with is what I would say. And again, confidence thing. So,
it's always...
yeah.
All right. The next.
Right, there we go. Right. I've never used solid bags. Never used solid bags in France before, right? So my reading's not that good. Never used solid bags before in France. Do you think they will work as well over there as they do in the UK? Or would you just use pellets in them, or mix pellets and boilies?
Nice. I have used solid bags abroad and stuff like that, but I don't use them like, you know, I would in UK. I don't use, you know, tiny short hook links in a compacted solid bag. You know, on some lakes I've fished in the past have been really silty, or they've got lots of silkweed on the bottom and stuff like that. So I tend to do it a little bit different and stuff. And as Blue Peter style, I use the old parachute.
Yeah.
So I've got my lead set up there. And then I've got the PVA bag, which is a mix of pellets, ground baits. I'll also put liquid in there and stuff like that. And especially when I'm fishing out from a boat or a bait boat, especially, I use this in a bait boat. You know, you can donk your lead a couple of times. This is still sat bolt upright. As soon as the air kind of, the water seeps in, it tends to go to the top. That keeps it up in the air. As soon as the top bit kind of starts to melt, which is usually the first point of call, that will just pull away. And then you know that you've got a nice little parcel, you know, on the front of that. And the other one, this is more for bait boats, but I've customized Dave's PVA bags. I've actually joined 2 together.
Yeah.
So I cut one seam off one, and then I lick the edge, and then I put it inside the other. But that's the whole entire hook link. As you can see, it's just the end bit there.
Yeah.
Fish with normally about a 5 ounce inline. But like I say, that just sits in the hopper of your bait boat. And if you're going in, good for like weedy spots. If you've got a nice little weedy hole you want to fish, you know, that's a nice little parcel. That sits inside, you know, dustbin size lid. Plonk that, you can see over the side of the boat, or you know, you found a spot in your bait boat and you want to fish that tiny little hole, and you don't want to spread it all around in the weed or your bait when you're spodding, or, you know, with a scoop and stuff. You just want that one little parcel in that hole. So if they come over the top of the weed, look down, the hole's glowing, but with food as well, and it's all your hook links inside, and it's a mouthful. But, you know, that's the kind of way I approach PVA bagging abroad and stuff. What about yourself, mate?
To be honest, not solid bags. The only time I'll use solid bags in France is if I'm using liquid, and then I'll just fill the PVA bag up with the liquid, sort of like lick the top, twist it round, put a cable tie around it, and then I'll just hook my hook through the cable tie, sort of thing. It's very, very rare thing that I'll use. To be honest, I don't use solid bags in my fishing really at all, sort of thing. Even in England, I'm more of a mesh bag, and
yeah,
because I use
mesh bags as well, though, isn't it? You know, they both do the same sort of thing, really. You know, I've got one tied up here. You know, that's what you call a donkey choker bag.
Yeah,
but it's the same again. It's a big parcel of bait. You know, you could drop it in a hole. You know, but that's the one that's the
the catfish. Yeah,
the big deal. But it's ideal, especially for boat work and stuff like that. You can make a hand grenade as such, and if you want that, just a parcel, run and chucking scoops of bait in and all the rest of it. It's just lower down, donk, you know, and you know you've got a nice little bit of bait in a nice good spot.
Yeah, I've been using the catfish mesh quite a lot, especially in France and over places where I used it at Teliats, sort of thing, when I was there, because I'd go out in the boat, pour a 5 kilo bag of boilies all over, but because I'd got the 60 mil mesh, I could put like 20, 30, 20 mil boilies in it, tie it up, hook my hook on it, drop that out with the lead and everything. I know I've got a little pile of 20 mil baits round my hook bait as well, sort of thing. But like I say, I don't use solid bags. To be honest, because I use a long hook link, I always use a PVA bag. Mine's 99% of mine is mesh, and it's either a little bag like that of pellets, sort of thing, with a nugget in, just to stop, because I use such a long hook link, to stop them spinning and tangling. Or the other one that I use a lot of is the little parachute bag.
Yep.
Because I don't use pop-ups, very, very, very rarely, sort of thing. So it'll be a wafter or a bottom bait. So I'll just put the 3, you can see that, three baits in there, sort of thing, tie it up as a little triangle. You pull it down, pull your hook link into it, into the end, and then, like you say, when you cast out, because of how the bag looks, it hits the water, drags back like a little parachute, and 9 times out of 10, it just stops it hooking up on everything and lays your rig out, sort of thing. So I think again, it's like everything we keep saying. If you use bags a lot in England, use them out in France. Use what you are confident in.
You might stumble across something that people don't use. People might think, oh, it's not a good tactic, but I know loads of people now that are going over to solid bags and banging out some big UK carp, you know, on big solid bags and stuff. So, you know, it's just, like I say, it's doing whatever you are, you know, confident in.
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right, got one here from Mark Rose. Any tips when using a bait guard in France, like soaking in flavour, etc.?
Right. Well, the one that I do when I use bait guard, sort of thing, is I haven't brought ours with us, but I do really like the Castaway one, because it's not plastic. It's not like your shrink plastic. A lot of them use. The Castaway one is mesh, just like the PVA mesh, but it doesn't melt. I either use that or I'll use a piece of a woman's tight. And the reason I do that is I use a fish meal boilie all the time, and my fish meal boilie has the fermented shrimp paste, and I get it from my chef suppliers, and it's what we make the little Chinese fish balls out of, sort of thing. Yeah. So it's just that it's like Bellacam, but it's a lot smoother. It's more like a paste rather than a hard block.
Yeah.
And what I do is I wrap my hook baits in either the ladies' tights or the Castaway bait mesh. Wrap it in that, and then because it's a like a clothy material, I just get the shrimp paste and just rub it into it, sort of thing, and it soaks and permeates. Or what you can do is, if you get your hook bait, roll a little bit of the shrimp paste into it, sort of thing, then drop it in. Then as you tighten the bait guard, whether it be the Castaway stuff or the or a lady's tight, the tighter and tighter you squeeze it, that soft paste will ooze out of the thing. So I don't use so much. I don't use glugs or anything used when I use the bait guard, but I do use the fermented shrimp paste all the time.
I don't use it in the UK much, but I do. You know, I'm thinking about actually trying to make a start using it and such. But like I say, I mean, you can see that. But there's the bait guard there. But you know, I've made little parcels of maize, hemp, and in there I've got hemp oil, some rock salt, and some multi-stim. But I'll try and pull one out. There we go. So that's just solid hemp. It's about 18 mil. But if you're fishing over particle and stuff like that, or you know, bits and bobs of crumb and stuff, and you are getting plagued by poisson chats and crayfish and stuff like that, you know, little parcels like that. Same with the maize one. You know, you can get small fish come in and they pick away at, you know, 2 grains of corn on your hair or whatever. But if you put it inside the mesh, you know, they can't tell the difference between that. And it's just oozing the flavour out and such. But boilie wise, I just got glug all over my hand. You know, there's a boilie there that's been soaking for a while. You know, and you can thread it on. But what I do as well is I'll put 2 boilies into a mesh, and then I'll break them up inside it.
Yeah.
Crumb it up, and then I'll glug it as well. So it's just pure attraction, oozing out, just pumping out the liquid all the time and stuff. But I find the Castaway Pva bait guard, any liquid, it takes it on perfect. Like I say, I've used the other company's stuff before. I've got that everywhere. You know, and it's plastic. It doesn't take any flavours on, and if you smell it, it does smell of plastic. But you know, Castaway Pva stuff, you know, it's ideal because it is, like I say, it's fabric. So any liquid at all. You know, I'm a big advocate of liquids. You know, I love messing around and making little tubs of, like there, you know, random 2 tubs that have probably been soaking for God knows how long and stuff. So use your own imagination, really. But yeah, I definitely do it. You know, I wouldn't even worry about if you're getting crayfished and stuff like that. Just try it normally. You know, something different that people aren't using, like a bag of hemp or a bag of, you know, maize. You know, if you're adding oils to it, it makes it PVA friendly anyway, and that will outlast any boilie or anything from bream and all the rest of it, and they won't be picking it up.
No, very good. Right, one here from Mr. Roberts. Right, when fishing for catfish or carp, would you recommend putting the loose feed in the bait hopper or putting out a bag? Right. When you're using a bait boat, would you put your 3 offerings just in the bait boat, or use a bag and put the bag in the bait boat?
It's one of them. If you want to fish a nice, like if you're fishing for catfish and you're finding that nice silty gully, you know, they want to get troughing in and all the rest of it and stuff like that, I'd say probably go more on the side of just have it loose in the bait boat, because then it, you know, and have lots of bits and stuff like that, so it can flutter down out of a bait boat and just kind of make a nice little area in the silt. But if it's a little bit harder, you know, next to a snag or a weed bed like that, and it's a little bit more solid, yeah, I would go down the route of, you know, especially for catfish, you know, dropping a hand grenade in there, or, you know, big halibut pellets and stuff like that in a nice big long stocking and stuff, and then you can drop it. It's a nice, you know, for a catfish, it's a one mouthful, you know, it's a instant bite. They don't have to pick any other freebies up. You know, they know they're coming in, or they're, you know, on the smell and all the rest of it, and it's just one suck and off they go. So I think it can vary really.
Yeah. One tip that I would give that I do is, if you are using solid bags or PVA bags, again, I did really well doing this. I was fishing a lake in France and not using the boat, just casting, but only casting 40 yards. I got a hook bait on and I was just fishing PVA bags with about 10 15 mil boilies in. But I never catapulted or throwing sticked any single baits in. Because I was putting a bag on every time, I was actually baiting up with PVA bags, sort of thing. So when the fish were coming into the swim, they weren't just finding one bag, sort of your hook bait, and 10 bags round it, and then singles everywhere. I'd cast that out, and then I was making up like 10 boilie bags and firing the bags in. So when the fish were coming into the swim, they were actually finding sort of like little groups of bait, how you was fishing, rather than sort of thing. Because I think they can learn. So if they're coming into a swim and there's 100 single baits out there, and they get caught on one little pile, eventually they're going to know that little pile is danger, and the single one aren't. So if I am fishing with sort of like bags of boilies, I will bait up with bags of boilies, sort of thing, and go like that. Just trying to put them the odds in your favour, sort of thing. I've even gone down the route of everybody else is fishing singles or pop-ups or 20 mil boilies and that. So I'll go in with 2 14 mil bottom baits. But what I'll do is I'll sit there at the side of sounds sad. I'll sit there at the side of the lake with some spaghetti and shove a piece of spaghetti into a boilie.
Yeah.
And catapult double baits out there, sort of thing, because I'm fishing with a double bait. And it's worked. And again, it's another one. If it makes you confident up here, you will fish 100 times better. Sort of thing.
You know, just before that question there, Castaway put up, you know, could you do both? Yeah, well, if you've got a nice big bait boat with double hopper, which, you know, I have, mine could take about 8 kilo, I think, my bait boat. Yeah, why not? You know, if you want to put a big bed of bait out there and try and draw them in, especially carp and stuff, and if you know you're fishing a decent depth of water, you will get nice spread. So you could drop the bag down first, and that can settle, and then you know your rig's presenting nicely, and then, you know, circle back round and then dump the other hopper over the top, and then that gives you the blanket covering. So yeah, you could definitely do both, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's doing something different to what other people have done. Going back to the 60 mil catfish mesh that you've got there, Christian. I've used that before when I've been rowing out in the boat, and I have literally put, if I'm fishing 100 baits, I've been fishing with that mesh with like 100, 120 boilies in, hook it on and just drop that straight off the side of the boat. And I won't put no freebies out. So it's all bang, straight down, dinner plate, in a hole in the weed, and away you go. And I've done really well on that sort of thing. I think it's thinking outside of the box, or looking at what everybody else is doing on the lake. If you can see that everybody else is doing that particular method, sort of thing. So, now, sometimes doing something different to everybody else won't work, and you have to catch them on the going method sort of thing. Yeah. But a lot of the times you try something different sort of thing. The amount of carp I've had in France fishing a single piece of fake corn sort of thing, 40 acres, and you've whacked out a single piece of fake corn, and then I've sort of like catapulted as far as I can 1 grain of corn, just odd 1 grains, and that out there sort of thing. And I've had fish sort of thing, rather than putting a dinner, you know, a table full banquet out there. So I think so. Right. Best tips of what to look for. Right. If you're going out on the boat and using an aquascope and stuff, sort of thing, what do you particularly look for, Christian, in your spots? You know, would you look for weedy spots? Would you look for something that's totally glowing? What do you look for in a spot?
Like I say, most the thing is, you know, depends. If you're fishing a public lake and all the rest of it, you know, you've got a bit more free roam as such. You know, you can go off miles, fish 300 yards out, you know, and you can pick the best spots, what you think. You know, carp always go near weed beds, carp love silt, carp love gravel, you know, any sort of structure. But, you know, if you're on a commercial lake, you know, I fish a lot of commercial lakes, and you've got your swim, you've got 100 yards out in front of you, and you've got 20 either side to your left. You know, you're going to have to be a little bit more picky, I think. You know, and then I always think, what is everybody else fishing to? You know, if you cast out a lead and you feel a crack down aiming at a pylon, how many other people have aimed at that same pylon and felt that same crack down, or vice versa, going out in a boat and seeing this huge, great big size of a bivvy glowing spot? You know, I've seen carp go over the top of those sort of spots, and as soon as they get to the edge of it, they're gone. They're not cruising over like the rest of the lake, like the stilt and all the rest of it. So yeah, quite a few times we like the silty spots, to be honest, especially for big fish, because you know I've seen fish buried halfway on. You know, you can't even see up their heads; they're so far deep in the silt. You know, so I'll always, if there is a nice big glowing gravel spot or a weed bed, if there's a nice silty hole next to it, or you know you've got the seam, I'll always try and fish in the rubbish as such. I do like fishing in the rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, the same. I just hello, Adrian. Hope you're well, mate. Yeah, we're all fine. And right, when I'm looking for the spots, there's a few things that I look for. I don't tend to look for the really big gravel spots. I tend to like the smaller gravel areas, sort of thing, or the silty areas, but the smaller gravel areas next to the weed. I do think, because the carp will spend 99% of their time hid in that weed. They won't spend all their time just hanging around, sat on a gravel spot and everything. If the whole of the gravel spot is glowing like the sun at midday, I won't touch it, because a lot of the time I think it's been eaten out. And the same on the other respect. If I find a big gravel spot, but it how can I say it? If I find a gravel spot that looks like it's been, so it looks like it's dust. You know, if you was to leave a table in your living room and not dust it for 6 weeks, and it's got that layer of dusty particle on it. Yeah. Me personally, I think that it's been eaten out and it's been left. It's finished with, and it's started to like sediment over, sort of thing. So I will fish for the smaller ones, or if you find a gravel area that's the size of a kitchen table, but only the size of a dinner plate is glowing, that to me that's a gravel area that they've started to feed on, sort of thing. But again, I'll never fish in the middle. If you find a 6 foot square gravel patch, you wouldn't fish right in the middle of it.
No. Edges.
And again, a lot of the times I use these long hook links. It comes into places where you're casting. I'll cast the lead out, reel it back till I feel the weed, sort of thing. And then I'll hold the rod up, straight up in the air and clip it up, put my long hook link on, then I'll cast it out. And I know if I'm pointing the rod forward and I just hit the clip and go forward, that lead is like a couple of foot onto that thing. So quickly, I feel the lead down, it goes donk. I'll pull it back till the lead goes and stops. And then I know my lead is at the weed and my hook link is 18 inches onto the clear spot.
Oh, yeah.
But again, just look for them like little different areas. The amount of fish that I've caught, you'll find 2 gravel spots. So there'll be a gravel spot here and a gravel spot there. And you'll find like a little seam of gravel between the two. And I'm sure that's where the fish feed on one, then push through the weed and feed on the next one. So I will fish that little stream in between, sort of thing. But definitely on certain waters, little areas can be better than bigger areas. But don't always go for the glowing, absolute glowing, clean spot sort of thing.
Yeah, obvious features and stuff. Right, nice one. Next question. What extra or different tackle do you take abroad or use abroad, mate?
Oh, right. Right. A lot of it will depend on, obviously, the lake you go into, lake rules and things like that. If you can take rowing boats, I take my rowing boat 100% sort of thing. I prefer a rowing boat to a radio control boat, but I will take both sort of thing. I've got the little, I'm not a big lover in big plastic boats. I just don't like, like the ones you get when you go to Teliats and places like that. I just don't like the way the oars can bang on the sides and everything. I've got the little, I think mine's either a 200 or a 220, the little Fox blow-up boat, the little rubber boat sort of thing. I've got the motors for them. If obviously, depending on the size of the places you're going to fish, if I wouldn't take that little boat if I was going to fish the Orient or Chantico or somewhere, or I might take it, but it'll go as my spare. I've got a 3-meter boat as well, sort of thing. So depending on size of lake is the size of boat that you take. Motor, if you're going to buy a motor out there, me personally, I wouldn't mess about with your 30, 35, 40 pound thrust. Get the biggest one that you can, because you get out there, even on the small lakes, if it's windier and everything, you want a good motor to hold you in place. Or if you've gone out to land a fish and you're bringing that fish back and it's raining and windy sort of thing, I've seen so many people struggle using the little 30, 35 pound thrust ones. Get straight. I think the one I've got the big Fox 55 pound thrust. Never had no problem with it, sort of thing. I'll take my 3-meter boat. I'll put my tackle in my 2-meter boat, tow that with me, sort of thing. So definitely size a boat on the size of lakes. Get the biggest motor you can. Get yourself a decent leisure battery. I think mine's 120 amp hour that I use for my boat and everything. Fish finders, all depends on what you want to do. I've seen people use the ones that's got GPS and this, that and the other. I haven't. I've just got tiny little plain, I think mine's a Lawrence, and it just tells me the depths, and that's all I'm bothered about, sort of thing. Depths, a bit of what's on the bottom. I use my aquascope where I can see. Aquascope is a must, sort of thing. And then it's how much you go abroad and how much you can afford to what you take with you, sort of thing. Like I've got a set of 10-foot rods, just in case, a lot easier in the boat and everything. But I've just got cheap Dominator X Sonic £3 10-foot rods, because you don't need the big, you don't need big 3.5, 3 3/4 pound, because you're not casting, you're going out on the boat. That nice soft 10-foot rod is perfect, sort of thing. And I've got braided reels in case I need braid, but because I use them once in a blue moon, what's the point in buying a 2, 3, 4, 500 quid reel to load up with 60 quid's worth of braid if you're only maybe going to use them once or something? So I just bought myself, I've just got some Sonic Tornos 8000s, cost me like 60 quid sort of thing. Put some braid on it sort of thing. So I've not got hundreds of quid's worth, but I could afford to do it as a spare sort of thing. So a lot of it is just extras, what you need, because most of the time, what you use in England, you can use in France. The three main things, you're going to take more food, more bait, and more clothes. And then you're just going to upgrade maybe your hook size, your hook link material. But as for extras, see what the rules allow you to do and then do it on what budget you can. Is there anything that you take particularly extra?
All you've got to think is when you're abroad and stuff like that, they haven't got the tackle shops as we do over there. So you can never take too many leads to France. I've mucked up a few times. I thought, right, I've got 100 leads here. And then, you know, for some reason you lose them, you drop them, you know, you miscast, all sorts of things. You know, you have loads of fish. Then you run out. What do you do? You know, same as not having the right lead size. You know, when I was fishing the river a lot, you know, luckily I was talking to the owner quite a lot, and I was thinking, well, you know, it's a river and stuff like that. You know, I might take 5 ounces. I ended up using 24 ounces to hold bottom.
Yeah.
You know, how many people would have turned up with 5 ounces, and you ain't gonna tie that many together, you know, to hold bottom and stuff like that. You know, so I was lucky on that front. I think you're just doing your research. I think part and parcel going abroad, I love the research.
Yeah.
Love finding out about the lake. I love finding what I need to do, the rules as such. Like I say, I love bait boats. I use bait boats more than I do rowing boats, to be honest. You know, I've got a big wave runner, the big Mark IV with a Tolson 640 on it. You know, you could probably sit on it actually and take you out. You know, things like that. I love solar panels, power packs. You know, whatever you can afford. You know, when you're starting off, you know, you just bits. But the more times you go abroad, like you probably found yourself, mate, the more rubbish you take with you. You know, like I showed you earlier on, the best buy ever my missus bought me for Christmas, which is good for this country as well, which is a bug zapper and a light. You hang it in your doorway, and it saved my life in Croatia. We would have got eaten by 3-foot fruit bats, I reckon, out there. But it's the same. Like when you're fishing abroad, you know, you've got your H blocks for marking, trying to get across. You know, I've fished some real snaggy waters, so I've gone down the old route of the bottom. So you're fishing your rig down here, and then it comes up to the float, and then you get fishing a tight line, you know, over the top of weed beds, or, you know, you can be fishing over giant trees and stuff like that on the bottom. And, you know, some lakes have got small villages buried in because it's floodland, you know. So, but do your research, you know, and I would always say take more than you ever need, like spare line. You know, the amount of spare spools I take with me, because, like I say, you can never have.
Yeah.
You know, you might crack off. You know, you might get caught in a snag. You might catch a 200-pound catfish that spools you. You know, and if you haven't got any spare line, what are you going to do? So over the years, my van is kitted out as such for every eventuality, and like I say, every kind of kitchen sink as such that you can imagine, because I never want to be halfway through a session of a lifetime and run out of something.
No, definitely. Do, like you say, do your research on what the lake is like, and then buy what you need to buy or borrow or whatever sort of thing. But like you say, I've got like a big plastic box with all like the bottle floats. I've not gone down the route so much of having loads of spools, but I do always take like 2 or 3 spare spools of line, so I can spool up if I need to, sort of thing. And bits. Definitely, just do your research. See where you're going. Think what could happen, sort of thing. But like you say, the main things are like your bugs. Take some sort of bug repellent, light, whatever sort of thing, and your power packs and bits, sort of thing. Definitely. Right. Right. I'm hoping you can answer this one because I've never used one. So, what do you think of the deeper and the fish spy echoes, sort of thing, into fishing? And he has apologised for the people that hate them.
Fishing, don't worry. People say, "Oh, modern technology in fishing, it's bad," and all the rest of it. Well, you're using a bite lamp, using a torch, using lots of modern technology all the time. I think it's rubbish when people say bad technology and stuff. You got to keep up with the times, Yeah. And the fish are getting wiser to every single thing that comes out. No matter what it is, they get wise to it sooner or later and stuff. I have got a deeper actually. I use my deeper on my syndicate in the close season just to find new holes, new spots, things like that. I do take it abroad, but I would never ever. Once I've found my spots and I've mapped my area, like on the first morning or whatever, and I've made all my disturbance and all the rest of it, I will not cast it out again.
Yeah. Because
you take it out of the water and hold it next to your ear, you can hear it clicking. That's one thing. The other thing, the sonars click. They are fish scarers. I've cast out a deeper into a load of shown fish, past it, and then dragged it over the top. As soon as it's over the top of them, whoosh, they've gone. They're for finding spots. They're not for catching fish. In my eye. And I never trust the actual fish bit on it because I think that's a load of rubbish. I think for finding depths and features and stuff, amazing bit of kit. Utilize it. But if you're going to go to France, you're there for 7 days. You would turn up to any lake I've been to, the water gets thrashed to a living foam, doesn't it? On the first day, everybody's spotting, markering, trying to find their spots, rushing around. Boats are going out everywhere. Make your commotion then. Chuck out your deeper, or I've not used the other one, fish by, but I've seen people use them. Do it on the first day. Find your spots on your phone apps, whatever you've got. I use the Fox one, love it bits. But you can write it in a book or whatever. Map your whole entire swim, and then you find 10, 20 spots. And then once you've found them and you've wrapped it and you've marked up whatever and stuff, your distances and stuff, put it in your boats or whatever, then don't use them. Telex was the prime one. The amount of times I've seen people all week going out on their echoes to find their spot every time, rather than just have them wrapped up and all the rest of it and stuff like that, and you kill their swims, absolutely kill them. So yeah, I think they all have their pluses and their minuses, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is I was definitely told, don't use them as fish finders. They're not fish finders. No. Don't use them as fish finders. They're feature finders, sort of thing. And like you say, if it helps you in your fishing, sort of thing, I still like to just. I mean, it's very rarely I even use a marker float. I will take all my rigs off and I will just lead around with a bare lead till I find sort of thing what I want. But most of the time, location is 99.9%. If I can find them fish and then I can just cast the lead to them, if it goes down with half a donk, that rig goes on, it gets cast out, and it's there and it's fishing, sort of thing. Like you say, the minimum of disturbance, apart from, like you say, in France and that, do everything on the first day, find your spots, and stick to them. The biggest thing I've seen with people is 24 hours in, I've not done anything. And before you know it, come Wednesday, even in their swim, they've moved their spots. They've ended up baiting up 24 different spots in their swim, sort of thing. All I do, even if I row my boat baits out and I sort out, I go out with the scope, I find the spot. I mean, the the easiest way to tell you is the way I do it is I've got 4 of the big long Nashi prodding sticks.
Yeah.
I've got 4 of them, and I've got 4 of the Gardner H blocks. If I can reach the bottom with the prodding stick, I will go out, sort of thing. I'll use the scope if I can see the bottom, find my area, then I'll prod about with it, see if it's soft underneath the gravel or it's hard. Then I'll put that stick to the back of the area. I do that, find my 4 areas, go back, get my hook links, go out, drop them to where I want them, put the bait and everything in, sort of thing, and then come back. I'll bring the pole back with me, and I put some line markers at the spigot, and I look. When I've come back to fetch the rod, I will put 2 stones in my swim where I stand, or a little block, or I've got like a little metal sort of like marker that won't move. I put that down, and everything I do is done from there. So I'll come down and I'll get a little book, and I'll write left hand middle, right hand rod, and I'll stand on that spot and I'll look at my marker pole, and I'll know, right, on the spot, and I'm looking at pylon, second fir tree, blah, go out, drop the rigs and everything, marker the line, and then I know every time I'm casting or going out on the boat. If I go out on the boat, if I'm on my own, I put it round the wrap sticks. I don't count the wraps. I put it round the wrap sticks till that marker comes out, get it at the spigot, clip it up, reel it all back on, get that lead, put the lead in the boat with me, and I'll row out, going, sort of thing, and I will go out heading towards that spot. And once that line stops and it starts picking up, that it's at the clip, drop out, and you're in the same spot every single time, sort of thing. Just sometimes the old-fashioned ways are the best ways.
Yeah, you kind of answered the next question. I never leave H blocks out. I've seen so many people leave H blocks out in lakes and lose fish of a lifetime because they've left these H blocks out. They're there. I go out. I have 20 with me sometimes, and I've dropped them all on various spots. And trying to find ender bars, trying to find the lengths of plateaus as such. Then you go back to the bank, and then you can see which spots you don't want to overlap rods. So you kind of figure out which spots. Then you pick your spots, like you say, take a rod out, drop the lead, do the bait elastic. But once you've found those spots and you've got your far margin markers and you're all bait elasticed up, everything gets removed.
Yeah.
There's no point adding, foreign things to a swim that the fish don't want to see. You're already putting 3 lines out or 4 lines out. There's no point adding extra stuff to even make them even more on edge. So, use them, like I say, on the first day to find those spots. And like you were saying, using the pole, I've got a Nash pole as well, finding the spots, back of the spot, use all those, tools and stuff and your H blocks. But yeah, after you've done it, personally, I'd say remove it. It all should be documented. And, after a couple of days anyway of, doing these things, it's all second nature to where you're going out to a spot. How, when you can pretty much gauge, when the line starts picking up, when to drop, and all the rest of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm the same. I never leave anything out there. Or should I say very rarely. About the only time I will leave one out there is if on some of the big public lakes and I'm fishing and I'm casting and that from the bank, then sometimes I've got a couple of the poles that I've made myself where it's just a straight piece of conduit sort of thing, white pipe sort of thing. I've sprayed it green, put a lead on the bottom, and it's about 8 foot sort of thing. So if it's shallow enough, say I'm fishing all my rods at 80 yards and the place is quite clear, I might take that out to the middle of my swim, out about 10 yards past where I'm fishing, and just leave it there just as a marker at night for going out on the boat or anything.
Yeah.
On the pivot, if I get a fish and it goes and it kites over, the line will hit the side of the pole and the pole will just go over and then spring back up, sort of thing. But there, it's once in a blue moon that I'll leave it out. Otherwise, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
No, that's fine. I did see a question ago saying about how much bait would you take to France, and I think we touched on this last time, especially. Me personally, you can never take enough. You can always bring it home. If you want to go, me personally, if I'd say 5 kilo per day. But I go to France now, and quite a few times I've run out and stuff like that. So I go guns blazing. I'm a big, I believe in using a lot of bait. So I'll probably, I went to Croatia I used 260 kilo, but I'd always take probably about 60 to 70 kilos of boilie, somewhere around there. Take sacks of pellet, if they sell on-site pellet, use it. Don't take your own. Always use their on-site pellet. Same particle. They'll be used to how they cook the particle and what they use, stuff like that. But like we've touched on last time, you can never take enough, to be honest, and you never want to be caught short. You could be having a session of a lifetime, and halfway through the week you run out of bait, and then the fish just suddenly go, right, there's no more bait going in. You're casting out 50, 60 baits because you're trying to scrimp, and then they just move off, and your best session turns into a blank for the rest of the week.
No, definitely. Just say hello, Kim. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, definitely take more than, if you can afford to, take more than what you think. I mean, a lot of places out there now, you have to buy their particle. They don't allow you to take particles out there and stuff, but definitely house particle, if everybody's buying the particle or pellets from there, it's like natural food to them, sort of thing. But I always tell all the lads that I know and everything, unless anybody tells you different, sort of thing, I normally work on the rule of 1 kilo per rod per day. So it's nearly the same as you. If you're fishing with 4 rods, 4 kilo a day, sort of thing, at a minimum. But definitely, sort of thing, if you can afford to, and that, take more, sort of thing. Because like you say, you can always bring it home. And you just don't have to buy none for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, when you look at some of these venues that you've been to yourself and I've been to and stuff like that, that lake in Croatia, I think I can't remember what it was. I think it was like 120 different 60s in there. I know they had 45 different 70s. There was 500 plus 50s in there. You get a shoal of any sort of fish like that coming in.
Yeah, they're just going to eat everything.
Yeah, it's a snack. And I think there was 30 of us on the lake, and one, a bloke, Max Cottis, he used 500 kilo of just boiling. And we even got told by the owners and stuff, doesn't matter how much you put in, you will not hold the fish in your swim. And you could see him literally moving around the lake, and the rods were just going off and off and off, and then round and then stuff. And then it starts getting into, we want to catch the biggies. So what can I do to catch the biggies? And and stuff like that. But places like that, we knew it was going to be like that before we went. We weren't unprepared. Everybody knew that, the more you could take, the better. The more you could buy there, the better. But other lakes, I say I fished. We talked about it before and stuff. I've gone to lakes and I've used a single tiger with a bit of plastic corn on and 4 chewed up tigers in my mouth in the bait boat, and that's all I put out. And I had one of the best sessions in France I've ever had.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there's a lake I'm going to later on in the year, sort of thing. And I will literally take probably 1 kilo of worms, 3 or 4 pints of maggots, 3 or 4 pints of casters, and probably 5 kilo of 6 and 12 mil boilies. And I know that will be plenty, even if I catch a load, sort of thing. Because for some reason, don't get me wrong, all these lakes will all have that odd week where they'll just throw caution to the wind and whatever you do, you'll catch, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That one is just, whereas the lake next door to it, the more bait you can pile in, sort of thing, the more fish you'll catch.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So like you say, just recapping on most things, I think the main thing is don't do nothing different to what you're doing. Do what you are confident in. Just maybe up the strength and size of things, and get the right lake for what you want to do, sort of thing. If you want to, if you wanted to catch, just go and catch as many fish as you can every day and just have a fantastic trip, sort of thing, you wouldn't go to somewhere like Rainbow or Teliats or somewhere, that's so gigantica. They're not going to give you 100 fish. Whereas it's the same as, you pick a lake, you read on that thing. I've got the biggest thing with some of them, they'll say, this lake's 2 acres and there's 500 fish to 65 pounds. Brilliant. Have a look at the photos and try and speak to people that's been, because it might say 500 fish to 65 pound, but if there's 500 sort of thing, singles and doubles, and 165 pounder in there, the lake is doing nothing wrong telling you that, sort of thing. But you've got all them to wade through. That 165 is probably going to get caught once every 2 years type of thing.
Well, I would say as well, especially fishing abroad, with lakes and stuff like that. You see these lakes, they're like 5-10 acres and they're rammed full of fish. But it's the normal small water syndrome. They're hard.
Yes.
Because they're in such a small area, they are harder to catch. Same as if you're fishing a 10-acre lake in the UK all the time and all the rest of it, don't go, right, I'm going to go and fish somewhere that's 110 acres with 100 carp in it. Do it to, if you're used to fishing a 10-acre lake, find something around 10 acres, maybe a little bit bigger, but find something that you're comfortable with. There's no point going to somewhere where, like this lake in Croatia, they reckon the average, all the fish, because there's so many people baiting, they all kind of sit in the middle, which is round 178 acres, 170 yards into the middle, to even get, close to them and stuff like that. And I was thinking, I'm not the best caster in the world, so I spent 3 months practicing, to get, to practice, because I knew that I didn't want to cast to a spot and then they move out further and then not be able to fish for them and then miss out on fish of a lifetime. So if you're not used to big casting lakes or boats or bait boats, just try and find somewhere that suits your style of angling. If it's a nice little intimate water, fish nice little intimate. They've got everything in, for Europe, massive inland seas. Where was one I went to? I can't remember what it's called now, but I know it's 56 miles around the outside of it to drive around the outside. It had a beach. It was tidal. It was so big. It was crazy kind of places like that. But then also I've been to 2.5 acre lakes in France that are like English waters.
Yeah.
Loads of snags, little tiny, you fish 3-ounce leads and find little spots poking your rod underneath trees and stuff. So, there's a bit of everything for everybody, to be honest. And that's why I tend not to go back to the same place all the time, because I love turning up to a different water and thinking I've got no idea how to fish this, or I've got some tips, but I'm going to learn it. I've got 7 days, 14 days. The buzz to do that, and then you catch something. I find it's more of an achievement to catch, a fish from a brand new lake than repeatedly going back and catching.
Yeah, I do like you say, I do like the catching them on your own terms sort of thing. You've put a lot more into it, but yeah. So, like I say, the biggest advice is, again, that's confidence, isn't it? You're saying pick what you're comfortable fishing and everything. Do what you're confident in doing, sort of thing, and pick the right water. Definitely pick the right water.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't look like we've got any more questions. Anybody want to ping a quick question to us before we finish? Just trying to think of anything else that we've what like. Well, again, yeah, it's what you're looking for. I mean, if you want something, you want something totally and utterly out there and sort of thing, at one extreme, you've got Rainbow, Orient, Lac de Deux sort of thing. If you want somewhere where a lot of it, take all the hassle out of it, go on one of the organised trips like Dream Lakes. To be honest, I went to Dream Lakes for the first time last year. Really didn't think, I've done teleats sort of thing, but I really didn't think I would like the get on a coach, go out there sort of thing, reel in twice a day for your meals and all the driving. I didn't think I would like that commercial side of it, and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely, it was. I think for me, for the amount of times I go to France, having one trip where I didn't have to drive, I didn't have to cook, and I didn't have to do all that sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed it. So there's stuff out there for everybody. You can get picked up, go there. You can order your bait. Your bait will be there when you're ready. Your food's all done for you. You literally turn up, put your bivvy up, fish, everything else is done for you. And then you can go to the other extreme where you have physically got to do everything sort of thing. So you've got that. The place I go to all the time, the Goncourt complex in the Champagne region, it's sort of a split between both, if you know what I mean. It's sort of a commercial water, but it's drive and survive. But the bailiffs, the owners are there all the time sort of thing. You book the lake exclusively for 2, 3, 4, 7, 10 of you. Pick the lake that you want with the amount of fish that you want in. There's lodges, toilets, showers, or there'll be a caravan. There's some sort of facilities on each lake, but you're driving yourself there. They don't do food, so you're cooking your own food and that. You take your boilies with you, but they supply, if you want, you buy the boilies, buy the pellets and everything off them. So it is a drive and survive, do your own thing, but on a commercial sort of like complex. So it's a bit of half and half. And then you've just got the wild places, the public lakes where you just turn up, fathom out how to get a license at the local shop, and away you go. So anyone you would recommend?
I've not done really any kind of, the big wild places and stuff, but commercial wise and stuff like that, you've got Abbey Lakes, it's coming strength to strength, to be honest. Amount of videos you see on YouTube now about Abbey Lakes, it's definitely on my radar especially it's an hour and 20 minutes away from Calais.
Yeah.
That appeals. Definitely.
Yeah.
When I went to Croatia, we left on Friday afternoon and we got there Sunday morning. Yeah. The drive and half, to be honest. But you've got those. But depends what you want. If you want a hard lake but with big fish in, you got Happy Lakes. It's got some amazing fish in there. Loads of 70s. I think it's got an 80 in there now and stuff like that. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm off with Dave and Paul from Castaway to Itcus in October. Which is a big old lake. I think it's about 100 odd acres. It's got 12, 13 different 70s, I think it is in there now. Lots of big fish, but it's nice because you've got a little chalet in each swim as well that you can rent out if you want to, or you can stay in your bivvy. It has got a restaurant and stuff, but it's right down near the Spanish border, so nice little drive as well. There's a few, but you type it into type carp fishing in France, there's hundreds. But it's like in this country, same as in this country, you've got good lakes and bad lakes. Half the time you won't know until you go. I've been to some shockers and I've been to some best trips in my life.
Yeah, I think the best thing is find what you want out of a lake. You decide what you want out of your trip. Go onto Google or anywhere and find the lake that fits your requirements. Then find somebody that's actually been to that lake. That's the three steps that I would give to someone. What you want out of a trip, what you want to catch, what you want facility wise, everything like that. Then find the lake out there that fits all your requirements. Then speak to somebody that's been. That's the best sort of thing. Because like if you want to do it the other ways, you've got Cavanack Lake down in the south. You can fly there, and they do everything. They supply your gear. You just go out there. I think you take your reels, your alarms,
and
your tackle, and your sleeping bag, and they supply everything out. Pick you up at the airport, all your food, big fish, everything.
Good thing about Cavanack as well is sorry, mate. Is they're always at the fishing shows. They're always at the big one. They're always at the fishing show. So, don't speak. You can ask them. You can hammer them. Get ideas. Usually as well, if you book a trip anywhere in France, any of the fishing shows, you can always get good deals. You get some really good deals. With booking in fishing shows and stuff.
No, definitely. And then if you want something totally different sort of thing, there's everything out there to suit everyone. Last year I did one called The Sanctuary, an English Adam owns down in the south. Now you'll never find the place is stunning sort of thing. But the nice thing about that one is he's been out there, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 years. But you catch a fish they go up to sort of like nearly £60, but he breeds his own fish. So you catch a 40 or a 50 and then ask him, he can show you that fish from a picture of it sat in his hand at like 3 inches long, all the way up to being sort of thing. Or you can go to the places where they just buy them every year, bung them in. And like I say, it's what you make it, what you want to make it sort of thing. But I think you'd agree with me, Christian, about find a lake that does what you want out of it. So, or decide what you want out of a lake, find a lake that suits all your requirements, but then 100% do your research, find somebody that's actually been.
Yeah,
so
nearly all the lakes and rivers and everything I fished, it's always because somebody's been there, or and if I don't know anybody, being in kind of where the kind of situation we're in as such, we know so many people in fishing. I know somebody been there, I could just send them a message. If you ever fish this lake, what do you recommend? They might say, what my cup of tea, on to the next one. There's so many, you can never fish half, not even, you can 2% you couldn't even fish, to be honest. I go out, I've never missed a year, and every single year for God knows how many years, and every year I kind of sit there and then another one pops up, or there's secret whispers about somewhere else and stuff like that and stuff. But if you are thinking about going, one thing I'd say, with Lee and stuff, the good lakes, you do need, if it says fully booked for the whole entire year, and for 2021 say, you've found something special. Don't be put off by it. If you're up for it, I've been doing it, but Lee's done it, and I'll book lakes 4 years in advance.
Definitely. I've got, my trips for the Goncourt complex, I've got weeks booked right up till 2026 sort of thing. Because I know if you leave it sort of like, if you tried to book on there for next year, apart from maybe 1 or 2 of the lake, there's 9 lakes on the complex sort of thing. Probably 4 or 5 of them are booked out solid for the next 3 years. Now you get cancellations and things, but that shows you. So it's definitely a thing as well. Keep your eye. A lot of people. One of the questions I get asked is, how do you find out about these lakes and how do you get on them and everything? It's a lot like in England. Keep your eye on that lake, and if you see fish I've got one I'm keeping my eye on sort of thing, and there's one particular fish, and I just see it one year. There was 40s in that lake, but I've watched this particular fish, and it was a stunning fish, and it was like £32. I see a picture of it a year later, and it was like scraper 40. 3 years later from seeing that fish, it's now £64, and I've booked on there for next year, because if that fish is doing that, that ain't the only fish in there that's doing it, sort of thing. And again, just like England, once you find a syndicate that's got 40s and 50s in, all of a sudden you can't get on there because there's a waiting list. A lot of the time you've just got to you don't have to take a ticket when these people offer you a ticket. That's the thing. You know, like in England, get your name down on a load of syndicate. Oh, he's just opened the syndicate and stocked it with 200 fish to £25. Put your name down for a ticket, because in 3 years' time, when they're doing £30 and £40, you can't get on there.
Well, yeah, the amount of lakes in England now that you have to put, say, £100, £150, £200 down just to have your name on the list.
Yeah.
That could be a booking in France for 2 years' time on a lake with 70s, 80s, 90s in. You know, it's definitely worth it if you hunt them out. And you like I say, there's enough people in the industry that people can just, you know, everybody will help everybody out. There's always lakes out there that are under the radar. You know, on YouTube, I live on YouTube. the amount of lakes I've fished because I've seen a video or seen somewhere and I thought, wow, where's that? And then sent them a private message, and like I say, and it just comes around. You know, I've seen a video. I can't remember what it was, a Riviere.
Yeah.
No, we fished it just before it got sold, and yeah, it was a crazy lake. You know, great big, like, and the huge grounds and gorgeous looking lake. And the actual new owner had turned up while we were there and got chatting to him and stuff like that. And you know, it was they said that they did have some real big fish in there, but then they had a lot of smaller fish as well. Well, I say smaller, like 20s and 30s and stuff. But he took hold of it, you know, started feeding a feeding program. Yeah, you don't catch anywhere near as many, but the stamp now, you know, people are catching 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, on a regular basis out of this lake now. You know, and that, like I say, it started off really good, but it's gone from strength to strength to strength. You know, but you know, it's fine. Like I say, it's finding those places before they kind of thing is the hard point. But once you start, you'll just keep on going. Like I say, I'm already thinking about the year and the year after, and you know, you've got to be thinking well ahead.
Yeah, exactly, sort of thing. Like I have 3-4 trips booked, and I've got them booked now for the next 5 years. But I always leave myself 1 week each year, just in case something comes up, or you know, somebody rings me up. I've got a cancellation. Do you fancy going here, sort of thing? But we're in that lucky situation. But it's what you want out of your fishing, sort of thing.
Like Croatia last year, I hadn't booked onto it. Literally, it was a month and a half before the going date. A mate of a mate of a mate of a mate said, because I'd been done over on another trip, they'd run away with my money and, you know, proper stitching up, and all 13 people had lost all their money and said they'd never received any, and the whole trip got, you know, it was and it was an absolute nightmare. You know, and they said, "Oh, I heard that you've been done over on a trip. I think I can get you a space on this one." I was like, "Oh, what's that?" Croatia. Googled it, found a Corda video of all things about this lake in Croatia that no English anglers are allowed to fish. And lo and behold, went there, you know, had 56 fish up to £63. You know, it was just one of those spur of the moments. Yes, grovel to my missus, please, can I go? You know, but she knows what I'm like, and tries to get rid of me. But yeah, it's like I say, it's just keeping your ears and your eyes open a lot of the time.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I'm sure Christian will be the same as me. You know, if any of you are out there and you want any advice, just send us a private message. You know, we'll
find you some lakes if you want them.
We'll find you something, or give you whatever advice for what sort of style you want, sort of thing. No problems. I do quite a lot of the shows with odd companies and stuff, or even if I'm at a show walking round as a customer, sort of thing, and somebody recognises me, you know, just come ask me a question, sort of thing. I'm not going to tell you to bugger off because I'm, you know, doing my own thing, and that I'll answer whatever questions I can when I can. No problems.
Yep.
So, right, I think that's looking. We've not had no questions for quite a while, so I think it's probably time to wrap it all up.
Yep.
And,
thanks everybody for all your questions, and I hope we haven't bored you too much.
Yeah, and if there is any more questions or anything like that, just ping them to the site, sort of thing. Paul or somebody will send them over to us, and depending if this carries on any longer or we get enough questions and that, we can always do another one if need be on something specific if you want, sort of thing, or anything. So,
yeah.
Thank you very much all for tuning in.
Yeah. Good night.